In this video I'm going to show you how you can create custom items and also how to make them give a player custom effects if the item is worn. I will show you how you can create this halo that gives you 5 extra hearts, reduces gravity for you and also increases the height that you can fall without getting any fall damage. And the way that it works is with the new item model component. So if you look at the wiki page, you can see the item model data component contains a link to the item model definition from a resource pack. So in order for this custom item approach to work, we need to create a custom resource pack. And this is what I'm going to show you first. And I already created the basic directory template for you to download. So you can go to smcode.io/code, resource pack template, and simply clone this. Or if you want to follow along, I will show you how you can create this template manually. First, open your resource pack folder by going to options, resource packs, and open pack folder. And then inside here, we're going to create our resource root directory. So right click, new folder, give it a name. So YouTube tutorial, for example, and then open this directory in your code editor of choice. I'm going to use VS Codium, which is basically VS Code, but without the Microsoft data collection. So go to File, open folder. Now navigate to your resource pack directory with %appdata%.minecraft resource packs, and this is the directory I want to open. Select folder, click yes. And then the first thing we need to create is a file that contains some meta information that describes the resource pack. So for example, the description and the game version it was defined for. And this file is called by default pack.mc-meta. So create it, right click, new file, pack.mc-meta. And then inside here in JSON format, create a pack object. And inside there we're going to define the pack format, which will hold the version number of the game. At the moment, the latest version is 64. If you're not sure what the correct version number for your game version is, you can simply go to this wiki page and look it up. Since I want to make the game compatible with the latest release version, which is at this moment 1.22.8, I need to select 64. If you want to make the resource pack, for example, work for version 1.12, you would look that up in this table. Then you would see 1.12 is version number 3. Then the next thing we're going to define is a description for the pack. So description, colon, and then inside quotation marks type whatever you want. For example, my texture pack with custom items. The name of the resource pack will be determined by the root folder. So in this case, YouTube tutorial, and the description will be this. And now we need to create the directory where all the resource pack assets will be inside of. So right click, new folder, call it assets. And inside there, we need to create a namespace folder. So this could be your name, for example, your company, your whatever, something that identifies you. So in my case, this. And then inside this namespace directory, we need to create 3 more folders. The first one will be called items. This is where our item model definitions will be inside of. The next directory will be called models. And then the last one will be called textures. Inside the models and the textures directory, we need to create one more directory called item. Since we only do items in this tutorial, we will not create the block folder. And then in the textures folder, the same thing. Make sure that everything is spelled correctly. And now if the pack is set up correctly, you can go in game and see if it shows up. Yes, in my case it worked correctly, so activate it. Make sure to disable any other packs could conflict with it. In my case, I'm going to disable this and click done. And now we can go to the actual modeling part. And for this, we're going to use a software called Blockbench. So make sure to download that from here. And then once it is installed, open it. And you can see I already did some Harry Potter glasses and a crown. Under the Minecraft section, select Java block/item. Create new model, give it a name. I'm going to call it Halo. Make sure the correct version is selected and click confirm. Just to give you a quick overview over the Blockbench software, it consists of 3 different sections, which you can change here on the top right. The first one is the edit section, which we are currently in. Inside here, you're going to do the actual 3D model of your item. Then in the paint model, you can apply textures and colors and so on. On the display section, you can change how the item should look on a player. So for example, how the item should look in a hand or when it's worn on a hat, or even inside the inventory or an item frame. but of course we're going to start with the edit section first. To add your first element, you need to click here on the add cube button or press Ctrl N, and then by pressing V on the keyboard or by selecting this option right here, you can drag it around. So in my case I want to center it and then make it a bit bigger, which you can do by pressing S or selecting this option here. Then if you hold the Alt key on your keyboard, you can resize it symmetrically like this. And now let's make it a bit taller. And as you can see, we now have a cube here. Now to make it look like a halo, we need to carve the center out. For that, select the knife tool from here and make your cuts. Then one more cut here and one cut here and the last one here and one more here. Then go to the move tool by clicking V, select this, right click on it and delete. And for the halo, this is already it. And now we can move on to the paint section. And now as you can see, if you try to color it, it doesn't work because there is no actual texture on this 3D model. So create it first, make sure nothing is selected here and click create texture. Then give it a name, then press enter. And as you can see, this is our texture file up here. And now we can begin to color it. Since I want the base color of yellow, I'm just going to select the bucket tool and make the texture yellow like this. Then I'm going to select another shade of yellow to add a few accents. This darker one could be used for the insides, for example, but make sure to switch back to the paintbrush and then just color it as you like. Maybe add some highlights on the top, a few shadows on the bottom again, and maybe another accent color. I'm quite happy with this, so I'm going to move on to the display page. And inside here we're going to define how the item should look in game. So let's start here with third person view and right hand. First make sure to select the item preset by clicking here, 3 dots and then apply to all slots. Now you can see it looks much better. For the inventory we need to change it up a bit. As you can see, this is not rotated the correct way, so use those sliders to make it look better. In my case the correct slider is the red one. Make it to 90 degrees and then just make sure it's centered. And I want to show the back side of it. So rotate by 180 degrees. Then as you can see, it looks good in the inventory and in the hotbar. Now let's go to the ground slot to define how the item should look on the ground. This already looks pretty nice. So I'm going to move on to the most important slot for this item, to the head slot. And as you can see, we have some work to do here. So the halo should be centered. It should float a bit above the player's head. Maybe it can also be a bit smaller. So up here on the scale it down to let's say 0.75. Yeah, this already looks better in my opinion. Maybe scale it up to 0.8 instead. And now so that other players can see the halo a bit better, I'm going to rotate it up a bit like this. So it just looks better from the front then. And then recenter it like this. So now press Ctrl S. It asks you where you want to save the texture file and make sure to save it in the correct location. Open your resource pack folder, .minecraft, resource packs, YouTube tutorial, assets, select your namespace folder, then go to textures and item. Click save. And now for the model format, you need to select Java block/item model and navigate to the model directory. So app data.minecraft, resource packs, tutorial, assets, namespace, then models and item. Now exit out of Blockbench and you can see the files have been added successfully. This is the model file and this is the texture file. And now we need to link those two together and we do this in the items definition folder. So right click, new file, call it halo.json. And then inside here, we're going to create a JSON object with a field called model. The type of this model is Minecraft:model. And the actual model is located at your namespace folder, :item/halo. And we typed halo because this model file is called halo.json. And now save the resource pack, go back in game and join a single player world just for testing first. And as I said earlier, we're going to use the new item model data component, this one. You can set that with an in-game command, which I'm going to show you now. Since this is a coding channel, I'm going to show you how you can do that in a Java plugin as well later on. And you can do that with the vanilla gif command. So /gif, your player name, then any item. If you're not sure which item, just use a stick, then square brackets, and inside that set the item model component with item underscore model equals single quotes. For the value, do your namespace, so in my case smcode, then colon, then your name of the item model definition file, which is the one in the items folder. So in my case, Halo. Type it here, press enter, and as you can see, we have our Halo now. If you don't see the texture, maybe you just need to reload so that the changes from the resource pack get applied, and you can do that by pressing F3 and T. If this still didn't work for you, make sure that you have all the references correct and no typos in here. If you try to equip it, you can see it doesn't work because this is just a stick with a custom model and you cannot equip sticks by default. Later on I'm going to show you how you can fix this in a plugin, but if you don't want to do a plugin for this, you can modify the GIF command by doing comma, equipable equals curly braces, slot, colon, and head. Now you get a new item and this will be equipable on the head, as you can see. And if you press F5, you can see that it works now. Then insert a new plugin project, create a new method to create an item. So public item stack get Halo. And inside here we're going to create the Halo item. So first get an item stack Halo with item stack.off material.stick, which we're going to return in the end. And in between here we're going to do the item modification. So first let's do the item model component with halo.setData, then data component types.item model, and the value will be just as in game our namespace and the name of the item. But here we're going to wrap it inside a key object, so key.key, enter the namespace as your first argument and the name of the item model as the second argument. Now you can see this is underlined yellow, not because we did something wrong, but because this is quite a new API and there could be changes that could break our plugin in future versions. You can suppress those warnings with @suppress warnings and then pass unstable API usage. And now that we have our item model set, I also want to give it a display name so that it doesn't say stick anymore. So Halo set data component types dot item name. This will be component dot text Halo in gold color. Then we need to make it equipable to the player's head with Halo set data component types dot equipable, and we pass equipable dot equipable, then equipment slot dot head. And don't forget the dot build in the end. You could of course add any other changes to the item if you want. You can see all the available data components by pressing dot and scrolling through the list here. So just as another example, let's set the max item size to 1. And this already gives us the item with all the changes that we want. We set the texture, the item name, made it equipable to the head, and set the max stack size of the Halo. And now let's make the item give the player that wears the Halo some custom effects. And for that we're going to use the item attribute modifiers. And first the builder of that, call it builder. And this is equal to item attribute modifiers dot item attributes to create a new builder. And now we're going to use this builder to add all the attribute modifiers that the Halo should give to the player. And then in the end we're going to set the builder to the Halo with set data component types dot attribute modifiers, and the value will be builder dot build. And now to actually add some attribute modifiers, do builder dot add modifier. Let's increase the max health by 5 hearts, and for that you need to first pass an attribute that you want to change. So in this case it will be attribute dot max health, and then the actual attribute modifier. So new attribute modifier, here you need to pass a key. So new namespaced key, pass the plugin as this, and then something to identify this attribute modifier. So for example, max health. Then the next thing we need to pass is the amount of half-lives we want to add to the player. So since we want to add 5 more hearts, we need to add 10 half hearts. And for the operation, we want to pass operation.add number to add this to the existing amount of hearts for the player. Semicolon, and then we can do the same thing to add another attribute modifier. And if you do attribute, then dot, you can see a list of all the attributes that you can change with this method. There are quite a few. For example, step height, oxygen bonus, movement speed, but for this example I want to change the gravity of the player. And just as before, we're going to create a new attribute modifier, then a new key, pass this again. The name will be gravity, for example. Need to pass an amount that we want to change the gravity by. The gravity is 0.08 by default, so if you want to set the gravity to 0 for a player so that the player cannot go up or down, you need to simply pass negative 0.08 here and do add number for the operation, but I don't want to remove the gravity completely, I just want to reduce it. So in this case I'm going to reduce it by, let's say, 0.04. Now for the last attribute we're going to increase the safe fall distance for a player. So builder.add modifier attribute.save fall distance, then new attribute modifier, new namespace key, this for the plugin, and for the name fall distance I want to increase the safe fall distance by 10 blocks, and the operation should be add number. And if you want those attribute modifiers to only be active when the player wears the item on its head, you need to pass another argument behind the operation attribute, pass equipment slot group.head, and I want to do that for all 3 attribute modifiers. So here and here. And now we are finished with our getHalo method. Now we just need to use it somewhere. And for this example, I'm simply going to give the item to a player when he joins the server. So create a listener for that. First implement listener from org.bucket, then register the listener in the onEnable method, get server, get plugin, manager, register events, this and this. And now create the event handler. Public void on join, player join event, and do event get player, get inventory at item, get halo. Then build the plugin, and now as you can see, if you join the server, you get your item. So as you can see, you get 5 more hearts and reduced fall distance. And if you remove the item from your head, all the effects get revoked and you are back to your default attributes. If your item texture looks a bit darker than now you did it in Blockbench, then this is an easy fix for it. Open Blockbench, go to the display section, select the GUI slot, and make sure to change the lighting from side light to front light. Then save with Ctrl S, go back in game and reload the textures with F3 and T. And now you can see the color is correct.